because as I kind of like to have fun. And so we'll make it fun, and we'll see what happens here along the way. The great news is that I'm doing core competency number 7 today, and then Eric later is doing number 8. So the nice thing about that is number 7 kind of tees up number 8. And obviously, all the core competencies work together in harmony, and they don't all necessarily go in order. But it is pretty interesting that 7 is coming first and 8 is coming second, and then we'll do the other ones through the week. And I'm excited to see everybody else's talks later this week. Bear with me today. I do have a brand new computer. I used to work on a PC Windows machine for all my entire life, and just this week I switched over to a Mac, and though it's going, I know everybody's like, yay, welcome. So I've heard wonderful things and I'm super excited about it, but at the same time, I'm really learning how to use it a little bit. So I do not have all my files transferred over. So, hopefully we won't have any glitches. I had a lovely handout to give you guys, but I can't figure out where it is on my computer because literally I don't even know where it is. And when I try to find it, don't anybody try to tell me. I'll find it later and I'll have Claudia send it to you. So we'll be all good there. I'm going to try not to look out my window, but there's a lot of construction going on outside of my patio. I'm getting my pool resurfaced, and I know this has nothing to do with our talk today, but there might be some noise coming from over there. So if you see me look over there like, oh my God, what's going on? It's because something's happening in the pool. In any case, let's go ahead and I'm going to share my screen, and there we go. Yep, they're going to start making noise any second now. Can you guys see my screen? Because I can't tell what just happened.
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. So it should say the spark that changes everything, evoking awareness in executive coaching. I have a question for you guys right off the bat. When was the last time one of your, oh, and by the way, this is going to be interactive. Like you're going to either be using the chat or getting, coming off mute and grabbing the mic and saying something. So we're going to be interactive. I love talking with you guys and I want to hear your voices. So don't be afraid to come off mute whenever you want. I am not going to give a long, boring speech. So we're going to interact, and sometimes I'll ask you to write in the chat. So my first question that you can see is, when was the last time one of your clients had an aha moment and it changed the way you behaved or responded? And you can just come off mute, grab the mic and say something. Like, seriously.
Iris, she came off mute.
No, I just did that by accident and I'm thinking about it.
All right.
My wheels are turning.
Yeah. Turn the wheels. That's good. That's what makes it happen. Heather.
Last week, this happened. So I would say I was having a slow day mentally, feeling dragged out. Client had an aha moment and it upped my energy.
Oh, that's awesome. That is fantastic. Love that.
I could share one.
Yeah.
This happened a few months ago with a client, the specific incident. It wasn't the last time, so kind of going off script there. But she had this, I said something, she had this aha moment, and she just started processing, and I went silent. Just totally silent, let her talk, let her figure things out. I checked in. I'm like, do you need anything from me? Do you need me to ask you a question? And she's like, no. She's like, and I just silent. And she actually brought it up the last time we spoke. And it really was, because I like to get in there with a question or something, and she even said, she's like, I still want to thank you for giving me that moment of silence. And it went on for like 5 minutes. And just letting me process and letting me think through it. And she's like, that was one of the most transformative moments of my life. And she's like, thank you for that.
Wow, Meredith, that's a fantastic story. And like the silence, right? That's a really, really big part of number 7. And sometimes it's really hard to do it.
Yeah.
Some of us, how many, raise your hand, virtual or physical, if you come from learning and development or, training in some way. see a couple of hands. I know a couple of people, right? So we're accustomed to just telling people what to do all day, right? Like that's what we do. We're teachers and we talk, 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 talk. And I know, Anne, I know you're a talk, talk, talker. I know you come from a lot of training and development. So right. So it's hard for us to be quiet and just be silent. But Meredith, that's so awesome. Sometimes that's all they want is to just let you be quiet. Who else has a story? I saw somebody else came off mute. I think it was Heather, but maybe no.
Hey, Jimmy, Kim.
Kim, there we go. Hi, Kim.
Hey, how are you? Good to
Doing
see
great.
you.
I know.
I had a client recently that it was kind of goes into what may happen later today, but she kept going around in circles when I kept saying the goal setting, any way we were going to focus on. So what is most important for our session today? And I kept going back and back to that question. And where I'm going with, they had an aha moment. I said, I noticed that you keep running in circles, so to speak. I don't know if I said it that way. And I'm wondering, when's the last time you asked yourself, what do you really want? Because it was something about like this for setting the session. And it went kind of like our prior respondent. She couldn't answer. And finally she said, I think that's what we need to talk about today. I said, I don't know. And anyway, I say that because her aha moment changed the course of what our coaching was about.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's beautiful. Love it. Yeah. No anyway there. That's awesome. Anyone else? Allison?
I can share one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Jimmy, after a long time.
So good to see you too.
Yeah. So I have a client and she and I were going over her Myers-Briggs results. And just out of curiosity, I asked her about her husband and what kind of profile she thought he might have. And it turns out they were sort of the classic introvert, extrovert type of couple. And we just went off on this tangent and started talking about, I was sharing with her some of the insights around, couples and the struggles they have. And she came back to me in our next session and said, you know what? I think you saved us a marriage counselor. And it was just a reminder to me that although, I'm also an executive coach and my primary focus, that we need to always be thinking about the person in a holistic way.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. And that happens, whether we're and it happens a lot more often in executive coaching than we expect or than the client expects, right?
Yeah.
They're like, I need to work on my time management. And you do that for about 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, my life is in a tailspin.
Yeah. Yeah.
So funny. Does anyone else have a story they want to share before I move on? Don't worry, I'll have plenty of chances to share stories. All righty. Let's see here. Let's go to this screen. All right. So evokes awareness. Let's get over, we'll do the boring stuff here. We'll read definitions of what it is. So according to ICF, facilitates client insight and learning by using tools and techniques such as powerful questioning, silence, metaphor, or analogy. So we talked about silence. We talked about questioning. We didn't really talk about metaphor or analogy. Does anybody have an example of something that where they used a metaphor or an analogy and it helped the client move forward in some way?
I do.
Yeah, Valeska, please.
I use a lot of metaphors. I like metaphors. I think it allows the client to project with no barriers. But I had a client. It's not with me anymore. But he had been a golf pro before becoming an executive in the finance market, and the coach really took off when I started coaching him just using golf, the golf as a metaphor for everything. So he really embraced that because it was passion and something that he knew. And so most of what we did was always using the golf as a metaphor for what was going on in his leadership position now.
No, I love that. It makes me think that it's because it's something that was so huge in his life, it made it really, really real,
Mm,
and he could relate. And that's what the metaphor is for, right? To help you
yeah.
relate to a concept or an idea or a thought or a feeling or something that's not quite clicking. Like even if we as a coach raise an observation or, suggest an insight, then it doesn't necessarily, sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't. But if nothing else, it reinforces and really helps to strengthen the reality of it, and helps them be more aware of what's going on. So yeah, really great example of using golf in there. So let's go over the markers. And I may have kind of tweaked the language just to shorten them up a little bit to make them easy to read on a single page here. So in case you can't see it because it might be too small, I'll read them off to you, or I can let someone else read it. Let's do that. That'll be more fun, right? We're gonna switch things up. Okay. So who wants to read marker 7.1? Just start talking.
I can do it.
Awesome. I can't tell who. Oh, it's Mickey.
Vicky.
Thank you.
7.1, ask about clients' current way of thinking, feeling, values, beliefs, or behavior.
Awesome. And what does that mean to you?
Oh, I think it goes back to some of the whole person in terms of all of the different places that we're checking in with them as a coach.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Yeah, the current way of thinking. Yeah, I love it. All right, who wants to read 7.2? Or Mickey, you can pick someone if you want to. Well, we're going to put people on the spot today. You will interact whether you like it or not, people.
I see Kim first right below you on my screen. So Kim Moore.
Okay, Mickey, here we go. 7.2, expand clients' awareness of themselves, the who.
Anything you want to add in there, Kim? Everyone's allowed to give their comments based on the headline of the marker.
I'm gonna say this is where we can put the mirror up and say, what do you see? What do you feel?
Absolutely.
What's happening here? Yeah.
Love it. The mirror. Okay, who are you going to pick?
Shoot, I don't have everybody up.
Rosario.
I'm gonna pick Iris.
Oh, well, okay, you picked Iris. Very good. I'll get you, Rosario.
Okay, 7.3, expand clients' awareness of their situation, the what?
Anything you want to add to that, Iris?
I don't know. I'm mostly just listening today. I'm a little
fair
rusty.
enough. Fair enough. I love it when you listen. You listen. You're a good active listener too. Okay, Rosario, you're in town with Iris, so across town anyway.
Sorry, but I don't have the list of the
I'll read it for you then. 7.4, explore beyond current ways towards outcomes desired. What does that mean? Exploring beyond the current ways towards the outcomes desired.
Well, I think it's a little bit of accompany the client to think about different options, different ways to achieve what they want.
Very nice. Yeah. That one, 7.4 is the bridge from competency 7 to competency 8, right? Because in 7, we're all about awareness, but we're not really about action. But when we start helping the person think about what they want to see happen, that's the bridge to number 8. So if we're trying to keep true to number 7, we really shouldn't be action planning just yet. Of course, coaching is very fluid and we do what we do. It's not like we have to go, oh, I've got to focus on 7.4 right now, or I've got to stay in the 7. We can go wherever we want to. But 7.4 is like the bridge between the two competencies. I'm going to ask Alexandra, can you speak?
Yes.
Excellent. Do you want to do number 5?
Yes. Share observations, intuition with no attachment.
Ooh, that's a biggie.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is where the coaching comes in, actually, right?
For sure. Anything else about that? What's a key moment? What's a key part of that for you?
The key part is to really share what we see. So we open the gate to new perspectives to the client, because the client might be, pretty much stuck in their own way of thinking and seeing the world or themselves. And when we just repeat what we observe, there's going to, the doors are opening.
For sure. Yeah, we're definitely opening some doors with that. There's a really important part to that phrase too, and that's with
It's
no
no
attachment.
Exactly. So that's
Yeah.
why we always observe and we share. We ask if we are okay, if the client is allowed that we share, but also there's no attachment of being right. So the client can always say, no, not so much my way of thinking or seeing things, but yeah, there's no attachment of being right.
So true. So true. Rosario, I'll get to in a second. It's because sometimes we might observe someone's facial expressions and we say, "Oh, you look upset." And they might be like, "No, I'm fine." And if we have attachment to our observation, we're going to run into trouble, right? Because if we're like, "No, there's something on your mind. You look upset about something," and we don't want to get in a fight. Like there's no attachments. As soon as we start holding on to our what we believe is going on in the situation, we're going to run into a problem, right? Because now we're not coaching anymore. We're combating or we're defending or whatever we're doing. We're not coaching anymore, not allowing that person to fully express themselves and be holistic in that moment. So the with no attachment is a crucial, crucial part, as it is with all of coaching. It just happens to be really stated out here in 7.5. Rosario.
I sometimes I find that very hard. Like not when it's like a to-do thing, but when it's more when the emotions are involved. I was coaching this young professional, started obviously with a career path, but it ended up obviously being about more of her personal situation and how she had to like overcome this like very, very high emotional like
Yeah.
She had the awareness. She did have the awareness of like, this is toxic. I have to get out of this situation on one side, but on the other one, it was so hard for her to like actually give that the big step, which she actually did eventually. But for me to watch her like just do it was like so hard because I knew that it was the right thing to do for her, but it took her time to actually do it. It's hard to walk an emotional path.
For sure. No, it's really, really tricky there. Let's see. Shakti, I'm going to go back to the chat here. What do you have here? You say, I feel like action or action planning is hard to realize without the awareness really having been explored and processed. Totally. Do you want to talk more about that? Because I love it. And I see Eric just jumped on, Mr. Action Plan himself, competency number 8. Say hello to everybody. He's our noontime speaker presenter.
Yeah, sure. And I'll tell you guys, I did text Jimmy over the weekend and say I was going to be 15 minutes late. So I was just wrapping up a client call. But yes, Comp 7, let's go. And then Comp 8 at noon. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you. Shakti, did you want to say anything about your comment there?
No, I think it's really, I think what you said really resonated for me, that, I think that in any coaching session, no matter how short it is, or in any process of the coaching experience with the clients I've worked with, if we're at any point jumping into action without kind of really going into the awareness stage and really exploring even just the topic before we jump into anything, it's like that Elias always talks about the arc of coaching, right? It's like if you try to jump and move the line from one point to the other without kind of allowing the client to go through the arc, I think it's just hard. It's hard for them to get there. So it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, totally. And there's probably more than a couple reasons why the really digging into the awareness is so important. And it kind of goes all the way back to the original contract, right? The contracting that we do in the first place is if we say, oh, what do you want, what's your goal for today? And we don't talk about the importance of it. And we don't talk about, why you want to work on this now, or, what is happening in there. If we just go with that goal right away without exploring, one of the risks that is run is this even really what we should be coaching on today? Like maybe they, if we quickly glom onto, oh, we've got a goal, let's hurry up and run to the action planning, it might not be the right goal, and it might feel like it to us, or we're like, oh, we see the bait of the goal and we hurry up and grab it, or we see an insight and we grab the bait, and then we end up getting hooked, and at the end of it, or somewhere in the middle, they change stream, or they jump off the hook themselves, and we see something different. And we have to, our job is to help ensure that the client really understands, feels, and knows that, number one, they've bought into this new insight to move forward, or that it is exactly what they need, it is exactly what they want in that moment. So the greater awareness is really, really important for making sure that competency number 8 is approached appropriately and accurately. Let's see. Ooh, we're up to number 7.6. This one's a fun one. I'm going to pick Kristen. Are you able to speak with us?
Sure, I can speak. You hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, 7.6 is use open, clear, one at a time questions. Speaking to this, I will say that my strategy is, if I'm, if we're busy doing active listening, a lot of questions kind of bubble up while they're speaking. And so admittedly, I scribble a little bit of notes sometimes down on my lap or my desk, because I don't want to be the responsible one to get us off focus, but I know that there's a couple of nuggets there that we should revisit. And so to kind of, as a guard against my own impulsivity to go down that next path, I just kind of jot down things that I want to recall that I feel are very important for us to address, question by question, one at a time. And so that's how I do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's hard to ask just one question because we have so many questions in our head, right? And we're like, we start with one and then we add on and then we do something else. And then, I mean, I've had it happen to me where I'll ask 2 questions. I'll be like, oh, hold on. Before we go there, let me ask this one question first.
Exactly.
And then have to reel it back. And, the client usually handles that pretty well, but it's a real art to ask a single, simple, concise question. And again, for those of us who come from the learning and training development world, it's not that we stack questions all day, but we're so used to talking that sometimes our questions, like, we have to process out. How many people are verbal processors out here in my little audience? Right? Oh my God. How am I supposed to, how am I supposed to do 7.8 if I'm a verbal processor, right? 7.8, I'll just read it, allow client to do most of the talking. Well, sometimes it's really challenging for us to just not do, we don't want to qualify the question. And I think that's the risk that so many of us run, is we qualify the question. And, sometimes we start out with that whole, well, given that you've da 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 da, and we reset the whole thing and we reflect and all of that. And then we finally ask the question. What if we just asked the question and didn't do all that reflection?
Another strategy, Jimmy, that I would offer, not from training and development, but actually I'm a classroom instructor at a college and university. So similar, right? Similar, but different. And we get very comfortable in classroom instruction with the pregnant pause of asking the question and just waiting for, college students somebody to kind of peek up. Well, one of the things I've noticed that helps me be a better communicator in the coaching sessions is trying to identify if that person is deeply thinking about the question or maybe struggling with comprehending the question. And so after the pause that we've all gotten accustomed to, I think simply just asking, let me ask a different way, right? Let me approach it a different way, and putting the onus on us to kind of represent it in a different way. And maybe it'll connect for the client at that point.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I've actually had to do that. Like, I've literally had to say, let me put this another way, because clearly I did not articulate with what I was hoping would work with that person. So yeah, definitely a really good point there. The last one uses simple or concise, simple language. The other thing I would add to that is let's use the language of the client. You know, we might have special words that we use all the time for a certain way of being or a certain way of thinking. We have our own little metaphors and analogies that we like. But if it's not theirs, then it might not click. And a big part of us making an impact or having this conversation be impactful or valuable for our client is using their language so that it makes sense to them right away. We don't mind them thinking when they're thinking about themselves in a situation, but we don't want them trying to figure out, like you had said, Kristen, like, what does that even mean? Like, what are we doing here? So use really simple language, concise, and use their words whenever we can. So, like I just said, awareness is when a client stops talking about the situation and starts noticing themselves inside of it. So many times our clients are caught up in the story and everything that's happening around them. And this person won't do that, and this one won't do that. And oh my God, this one continues to do this. And all they see is all of the environment, all the people in the environment, because that story's fun to tell, right? It's like, you know, when you watch a movie, you don't think about yourself in the movie, you're watching the movie. And when a client comes to us, sometimes they're retelling the movie that they just experienced the other day or last week or last month or however long. And until they start to notice how they are in the story, they're just going to keep telling that same story. They're not, you know, it's sometimes, I guess you could say, they're not taking accountability, maybe, or sometimes they're avoiding the accountability because they don't know what they really want. They know what they don't want, but they don't know what they really want. Or they're just not aware of what is happening with them or the way that they're projecting and other people are seeing them. How does that land for you guys?
I think that's
That
brilliant.
lands very true. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Heather.
Heather, you've been given the floor again.
It's just brilliant. I think I took a picture of that slide. I love that.
I'll send them to you afterwards.
No, and I think this is sometimes clients are just backing up the truck and they just can't wait to dump it. I mean, I'm that client sometimes.
Sure.
So I mean, they can't wait to tell everything that's going on. But this is brilliant to find out who are they in the story. That's brilliant.
Thanks.
Every now and then I've poked this situation with, tell me why you're telling me this and who are you in it? Or in short, why are you telling me this again? Sure. So then that can stop a bit of it and they back up and look at the why. It's not always a great question, but sometimes you got to stop the truck backing up. So
totally. I see Dr. Liesel says sometimes they get stuck in complaining, and I think they enjoy it, right? Who doesn't love a good complaining? I like it. I you know, misery loves company. Let me tell this story again. It's sometimes fun. You know, sometimes we can you know, it depends on how some coaches are a little, I don't want to say braver, but a little more maybe bold or brazen than others. You know, I might say to a client, you know, it sounds like there's, you know, you've got some heavy emotions going on here. If you just want to vent and complain for 2 minutes, go for it. But let's let it go after that. Go ahead, drop it all up, back the truck up, dump it all out. And 2 minutes later, let's get into talking about, you know, where are you in this story? What do you really want to see happen here? Yes, this is where the aha happens so many times, 100%. And I think it was, oh gosh, I can't remember now, but somebody said something about a mirror. Was it you, Heather, or Kim? Somebody, yeah, Kim, right? The awareness, it's not a fix. It's the mirror. Like, we're not trying to fix anything in competency number 7. We're not trying to fix anything at all. That might be Eric's job. And he's not trying to fix it, but he's helping them build that plan, take the accountability. What's the next step? What are all the steps if they're brilliant enough to figure it out in that session? But we're not trying to fix anything with competency 7. We have to put that mirror up. We have to allow them to see themselves in the story and start poking around and seeing the things that they don't see very readily or apparently. So they've got to get in there and just look at themselves for a bit. It's not easy. Oh my gosh. I hate when I'm in a coaching and I'm like, oh man, you brought the damn mirror, didn't you? Like, all right, I'm looking at I don't like it, but it's got to be done. And that's when the magic happens. That's when the aha comes, is when they look in the mirror and you're like, oh God, you brought the vanity mirror. I got a 5X on me now. Like, come on. Can we please just go back to the 1X? Like, I'm happy with that. I don't need to be this close. Like, no. All right, so let's do it. This is where you guys can, here's what we'll do. We're going to use the chat now, right? So here's a little example, and we're going to see how you guys might respond. We've talked about, the ways and means and how the competency works. And I know you're all familiar. You guys are all very accomplished coaches in your own rights. The situation is your client is a CEO of a startup tech firm. The firm is doing well, and there are signs of potential growth, but they are only 10 people strong. And the client says, investors want us to scale faster. My head tells me we should chase the growth, but my gut says we're just not ready. So don't write your answer, but don't send it, because I don't want other people to, be distracted. I'll tell you when you can send it. I'll give you guys a full minute or two in case you're not ready, but we'll say a full minute. Come up with your answer. And what would you say next? What question would you ask? What would you do as the coach in this situation? And if you need me to read it again, just raise your hand and I'll read it again if you can't see it. But if you can see it, I'm going to be quiet. How are we doing? I see Heather still writing. Looks like she's writing in a notebook. The other Heather Siskind. Are you guys ready to hit go? All right. On the count of three. 3. All right. All right, I'm going to stop sharing for a second so we can all see each other's faces for a little while. All right. Who wants to talk about, I love all these answers. These are so good. It's hard for me to read them all. Who wants to go ahead and talk about their answer and how they would go about approaching this client situation? Just come off mute and grab the mic and do your thing.
I can
Rosario,
start.
go ahead.
I mean, my first, my guts told me to go through the gut situation, obviously, but I felt maybe I would be like guiding them. So my question was like, okay, my question would be something like, in similar situations in the past, what have you done before? Like follow your guts or done what the boss said? I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
Just to create a little more reflection about it.
For sure.
What do you think? I don't know.
Who else has a comment? I see Meredith just came in. Her says, what do you think this discrepancy between your head and gut means? Ooh, very nice. Who likes that one? Raise your hand. Yeah, there we go. Let's see. Dr. Liesel says, how have you processed your winning decisions previously? Up, similar to what Rosario was saying, like, how has this worked before? What have you done? All right. Oh, Anne, tell me more about how you achieved your current growth. Intriguing. How many people like that one? Very nice. All right. Cool. Does anybody else want to talk about theirs anymore as I'm trying to read these? And hopefully you guys are looking through these because honestly, we don't have all the right answers. I don't have the right answers. I don't have any of them, right? So that's why I'm letting you guys do all the answering here. I just bring this question, I bring the scenario, and you guys answer it for me. So I love it. This is really, really good. Yeah, a lot of tell me more, tell me more.
Yeah.
Tell me more is a good approach.
I think tell me more works, Jimmy, if I may.
Sure, please.
We find ourselves at a decision point here, right? Like it's, do we go right or do we go left? And I think, stepping back to sort of, I don't know, a default position of you decide or you pick which way to go, sort of indicates the tell me more. And that's why I like it in this instance. But then decide want to explore the conflict or the gut or the mind or something else entirely. It's a great contemplation point, though.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And because we're talking about the head or the gut, we could even go somatic, right? Like, well, what does it feel like?
Totally.
Yeah, because if his gut feels he's not ready, does it mean that they're nervous? Are they clenched? Is it full? Like, I don't know. What does that feel like? What does your gut feel like? Rosario.
I love that question. How do you feel, or what does it feel like? Like I always use that question because I feel like even though they might come up with like a rational, logical scenario or decision on what they want to do, I really believe that if it doesn't feel right, it's not the right decision. Mm-hmm. So I almost all the time use, like, after the awareness situation, I almost all the time say, so what do you feel about this? Or how do you feel about this?
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely. One thing I didn't see in the chat, and maybe I just missed it because there were so many great comments. Nobody decided to just be silent. Right? Like they've put it out there, like, my head says I want to do this, but my gut feels like this. What if we didn't say anything and we just stayed silent for a few seconds, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10, and just let them continue? They may just keep on talking, and we might not have to ask anything. They might say, because it feels like this wrenching, and I know that my head says, get the money, we've got to grow, we've got to do that thing, but it just doesn't feel right. And I know that my team is tiny and we're not quite ready to do that. And it's going to be really hard. I don't know how my team's going to react to this. I don't know if they're ready for that big jump. So they might just start rambling about all kinds of things that, and maybe by us asking a question, we tighten the scope of where they want to answer. And that's the beauty of the silence, letting the oxygen feed the spark, is that we don't say anything, and that allows them to explore on their own where they want to go, because it might be somewhere else. As soon as we ask a question, yes, I know we ask powerful questions and are always open-ended and they're what type questions, but as soon as we ask a question, we limit their ability to explore a situation. And that's why the silence is so powerful, because we can just let them go on. And if it goes 10 or 15 seconds with no noise, no response at all. I do a lot of my calls on phone. I don't have I have Zoom, I'm using it. But me and my clients prefer not to do Zoom because we want to be more relaxed and be able to take a walk or do whatever the thing is. And some of us like to pace around the room while we're coaching or being coached. And so we just do it by phone. And so I don't see them. They don't see me. So if there's like a long, awkward pause, and I've had this happen in my sessions before where they're like, "Are you still there?" And I'll just say, "Yes, I'm just giving you space to explore a thought." And they're like, "Oh, okay." I mean, that doesn't happen too often. Usually they will go ahead and start, talking and expounding on what their idea is. But understand that having the silence, which is an enormous part of our coaching ability, and I'm sure every single person in this room can raise their hand and go, "Yeah, that was some of the best coaching comes right after that silence," because that's when they get their aha. A lot of times it's our questions, but a lot of the time it's they're sitting in silence and feeling like, "Oh, I've got space to think about this for a minute." And so they do. And they go on a wild space that we didn't even anticipate. So always make sure that you provide enough silence. I once had a client, I was actually mentor coaching her, and she spoke so fast and she left no room for oxygen. Like everything was just like bam, 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 bam. And so when I allowed her to coach me, so like my mentor coaching, I like to let the person coach me instead of them bring a recording. They coach me for some amount of time, and then we talk about the session afterwards and go over things. And she rarely would give space. And I asked her about it. I was like, "How do you think the pacing was?" And, we had a little conversation. I'm not going to go into too much of it, but she's like, "Oh my God, I have so much trouble being quiet. Like I can't help it. I really, I want to fill the space. I want to ask a question. I want to, I feel like if I don't ask a question, I'm not doing my job of moving this forward. I need to ask this question so that I can get the client to move forward." And so we actually did a practice. We did a practice. I said, "Okay, let's have a conversation. We're just talking now. We're not coaching. We're not doing anything. I'm not evaluating. There's no mentoring happening. We're just having a conversation. Let's just have a conversation." And so we talked for about, I don't know, 30 seconds or whatever, back and forth, back and forth. And I said, "Okay, now let's stop. There's a new rule. We're going to have the same conversation. We're going to continue this conversation. But in between me speaking, you're going to leave 2 seconds before you ask a question or comment or reply. And vice versa, I will do the same. Just 2 seconds. That's all. No big deal. Just have a couple of breaths and then speak." And it was funny because she had a really hard time at the beginning, like doing it, because it's so unusual to be in a conversation. You're just talking back and forth, and to wait 2 seconds in between is super awkward. But it really helped her a lot. So after we did that for about a minute, she got very comfortable with just waiting and offering the space and allowing the space on both sides of the question of us speaking. And then when I talked with her the following week, she was like, "Oh my God, that helps so much. I've learned how to, I'm not perfect at it. I still, talk fast and I still reply, but it made me think I can pause whenever I want to." And so she really enjoyed it, and it was a lot of fun. So I don't know. It's not easy to do, I can tell you, but it was good, and it helped her a lot. So I don't know. If you guys have trouble with leaving space, pair up with somebody and take 2 seconds in between and work on that. In fact, we could go into breakouts if you want to do that. But before we go there, let's see. All right. Like we just talked about silence, there are more than powerful questions. It's the catalyst. This is the catalyst for helping them get to that space where they want to be in the future. Guides the client to a new way of seeing themselves, their situation, their desired future, while you remain concise, client-focused, which means no attachment, right? Sometimes we're going to be quiet. We're going to give that space until we can help them get to their outcome. All right, another scenario. And then we're going to go back into the chat. We're going to do the same as last time. And we're going to read the thing says, not drinking the Kool-Aid. Your client, a CEO of a mid-sized wealth management firm, shifts uneasily in their chair. and they say, we've spent months on this new vision statement, but honestly, I don't think anyone on the executive team actually believes it. So, got a new vision statement. They've spent months developing this thing, but they just don't think that the team has bought in. How are we going to respond to this? And again, we'll write our comments, but we'll hold, and then we'll send them all at once in 1 minute. So go ahead and take a moment while I take a breath and a drink, because I've been talking a lot. And as I said before, if I'm looking out this window over here, it's because they're working on my pool. We're getting it resurfaced. So I anticipate a lot of noise momentarily. But I cannot tell what in the world they're doing out there right now. All right, how's everybody doing? You guys ready? You ready to hit enter? All right. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh. Silence, I see by Mickey. All right, who wants to bring something up here? Who wants to share their thought process?
I can.
Oh, go ahead, Heather. Yeah, please.
I just became curious and wondering if that CEO has bought into it. He or she talking about others, right? But like wondering, have they?
Yeah.
And maybe expanding a little bit more on that. Obviously, it was more of like a conversation starter. So don't want to necessarily do a close-ended question, but wanting that just to reflect back on themselves.
So how would you, because it's an interesting, you said you became curious, and now I'm curious. Are you curious about the CEO's engagement for your curiosity or for theirs?
I think for my thought process was simply wanting that person to go inward, right? Like, I guess so maybe I was pushing it a little bit more in my agenda, but yeah, I would say I was probably more curious and about themselves.
Yeah, because, it's a logical assumption. Anyone could take that leap and say, are you even bought in yourself? But again, that's, in ICF world, if you're doing the CKA, if that sounds like you might be thinking about yourself and your curiosity. You want to know where they are, because now you're like, oh, okay, now I know how to help the person. But I know that's not exactly what you were thinking, but you could construe it that way. I'm curious, how would you ask a question or be in that space if you wanted to see where they were in regards to engagement or buy-in in this new vision statement? How would you do that?
I would probably go in thinking about you and only you right now. Where are you at?
Good. Real nice. Very good. Awesome. Thank you, Heather. Who else wants to share their thoughts behind this? I'm looking for volunteers. Alexandra, I see you're not on mute, but you're consistently not on mute. So
Okay, so what I would do is when we talk to CEOs or executives, we have people there who always have to give rational argumentation, numbers. It has to be really, objective. And whenever there's someone coming in, then having subjective thoughts that they cannot put a number on it. It's interesting to explore, where does this gut feeling come from? Why do you think that your team didn't buy into the mission? What gives you the impression that? So we see, because they always have the need to have a number on it. 100% of my team bought into the mission. We're all going forward. Yay, awesome. This is how they might see or evaluate success. So, and anything which has to do with emotions or is more subjective, that is something hard to handle. So trying to see or prompt for more to put subjective feelings into objective words really helps. So for example, then somebody would, be able to really say, okay, I had people gave me negative feedback and so on, and we can explore into this direction where these feelings come from. And then objectify it.
Right. Yeah, because if you're working with executive coaching, it's, ultimately they're looking for a bottom line, right? Like, where can I quantify this thing? I know we're going to do all this hippy dippy emotion searching and all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, I need some bottom line solutions here. And we'll talk about using language a little bit later. I did want to point out, I saw, Claudia says, what do you feel is that missing? But I like Jing Zhang's. She says, I might bring the client's awareness to his body movements and ask what can be noticed to be happening. Very nice. Do you want to speak any more about that? I like it.
Well, because I just noticed the part before the description, right? There's a verbal description of the situation, and there's one part reflecting the body's movement and how there might be some kind of unease. So, well, my natural curiosity will go that first, but then probably in the how to formulate the question to bring that awareness to the body movement. Maybe that would depend on the person in front of us and the kind of relationship we have, how safe that person feels. So yeah, so I might go to that direction, but the wording of the question, I think that's where I need to work, like case by case, depending on the coachee. I don't know whether that's useful for you guys.
No, it definitely matters. Like, everybody's got to be in there. What would it mean? Let me ask you guys, how are we doing? Is this format working for you? Are you guys okay with, going through these little examples? Okay, because there's I've got a couple more, but if you'd rather just, get instruction, I can do that as well. So, or we can just have flat out conversations. But okay, so good exploration. Oh, okay, good. So we're all right. We're on task. All right. Well, with that being said, I'm gonna put up another one. And by the way, folks, for those of you that jumped on late, I did just switch over from a Windows PC to a Mac, and I'm loving the experience. It's great. I'm getting used to it, so I'm so excited. Okay, next one. Can you guys see it? Burnout looming? Yeah. So your client, a COO, leans back in their chair, rubbing their temples, and says, I've got this massive digital transformation project rolling out next quarter, and the CEO keeps piling on new expectations. My team is already stretched thin, and honestly, I'm just not sure that I can hold it all together without burning these people out. I'm sure we've had clients that have talked like this in the past. We might even have one now. So we've got potential burnout coming here. They've got to roll out. They're already stretched thin. We're asking people to do more with less. Same situation as before in the way of responding. We're going to write out our responses and hold on to them for a minute, and then I will say go. But I'll give you 1 minute to write your responses in there. All right, how are we all doing? You guys need another couple of seconds? All right, I'm going to say 3. 1, 2, 2.5, 3. You guys are like, I love it. So competitive too. You're like, who can get it first? All righty then. Okay, who wants to step up to the mic and tell us about their thought process and why they went the way they went?
I'm happy to.
Oh, Jess.
I think firstly, just acknowledging them for thinking about their team. I think it can be really challenging when you're in that position. And then, from the way it was written, it sounds like they might be feeling a little bit of burnout as well, and just kind of holding space to say, well done you for acknowledging this. And then pivoting to ask, what good could look like. I sat with this for a little while, and, I think it can be so easy when you're constantly being asked like for more and more and more and more. But actually, there is an opportunity for this to really pivot. And, if things are changing, then it's an opportunity for them to change. And I think I would see my role as a coach sort of being sort of holding space for them to sort of see that as a landscape rather than just going, okay, yeah, we're gonna like more people, da 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 da, and actually just sort of going, okay, like what would amazing look like in this scenario?
Beautiful. Love it, Jess. Thank you so much for sharing. Who else wants to jump in here? Well, we're waiting for a volunteer. Jess, where are you calling from? You're dressed like it's really cold outside.
I'm in London.
London. Well, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're so glad to have you here.
So I'm really simple with what are your options? Because I'm wondering, is he boxed in? Does he have to do this? Can he go back to the CEO and say, what are your priorities? Because and maybe it feels like he's stuck. And that's why I would go with what are your options?
Yeah, I love it. Eric, I saw you had your hand up, and I see you also said, what would amazing look like?
Yeah, totally. I thought that was super, Jess. I thought that was a really cool way of going, right? Where it's just sort of like, instead of sort of taking the bait and like, oh, great, well, let's dig deeper into despair here, and let's go for let's plumb the depths of despair and despondency. I thought it was kind of cool to sort of say, well, maybe we could try going a different direction on that, and what is possible. The other thing is a statement like this often, I'm sure there's plenty of other coaches around this. This is also an instance where it's like, well, is this even true? This is one of those things where it's like we might even want to, dig a little bit deep or play around with the concept of how much of this is perception versus reality, et cetera. If we're talking about spinning it in other directions. But Jess, I just want to say I really loved your inclination to be like, sure, negativity. Let's go walk towards the light, It's cool.
Totally. That's great. Who else? You guys are doing great, by the way.
I want to make a comment about Eric's what would amazing look like. For me, I put this in the chat, it created a spark because what I was thinking about was how do we take what he just shared and create a both and situation? And so beyond just the situation that we're in right now, creating a way to move forward, to me, that just created energy for me as a coach, thinking about that question and how it could be used.
That's great. So good.
I'd like to offer too, just building off of why everyone is really connecting with Jess's approach. Great job. It feels like in executive coaching so often where the temple rubbing or the agitation or the frustration is because there's an optimal, right? There's an ideal, but they're the leaders sometimes needing to identify what's that gap from yes, there is an ideal that I would like, but at the same time, there's a reality, satisfies what we need to get done. And then if you explore that gap with them, they become more approachable, it seems, with their team of what the expectations are going to be, because a lot of the stress is, of course, in the unmet expectations. And as we know, we can't really necessarily offer all of that to the client, but helping them begin to explore that ideal or what does amazing look like, then helps them on their own identify where sort of on that spectrum are they comfortable with what their action plan is going to be, what they're going to do in leading the situation, helping them feel equipped that they've got this, even though there might not be an optimal necessarily solution that they're going to go with.
Yeah. Thank you, Kristen. Shakti.
The other thing that came up for me, especially after what Kristen just said, is who do they really want to be in this situation when they're going for that amazing, right? And that might be a follow-up question when you kind of start designing the amazing, or it could be something you do before then, depending on what feels right in the moment, but who they want to be and how they want to show up. That rubbing of the temples and that physical description that you gave of this client, it reeks of stress and frustration and stuckness and all the stakeholders around you closing in, and you're nowhere that you want to be. So you're not showing up as who you really want to be, very likely in that moment. So who do you see yourself to be? I think can help with that vision sometimes of, and then how do we get there?
Yeah, completely. Like really bringing that acute awareness to them. Like if they're rubbing their temples, they're probably pretty stressed out themselves, and helping them be, they've got to project a way of being that is not stressed out, that is not burned out. And how are they going to move forward and bring that to the rest of the team? Totally. Love it. You guys are doing a great job here. Love it. All right. Let's see. Okie dokie. In competency 7, we've got this, obviously we're building awareness. That's the whole point, is we're trying to create a deeper, stronger, more real, more tangible sense of awareness of what's going on inside of us. And when we're able to do that, part of it is we start with that awareness. And now once we've got some awareness, that's when the insight comes, because it's going to be really hard to get to an insight without some level of awareness. I don't even know if it's possible, really. I mean, maybe it is, but you've got to be aware of your situation and yourself before you can get that insight. And whether we do that through metaphor, whether we do that through analogy, whether we do that through the silence or some other way, a powerful question, getting from awareness to insight, that's where we've got to go. Ultimately, where that leads is to that action. And again, action is Eric's area, not mine. So you got to come back at noon if you want to learn what happens at the action point. And I'm sure Eric didn't use the same slide deck as I did, so his is going to be very different from mine. But I want you guys to realize that, this is where we're going, that we're looking at this. And let me see, I'm going to push forward here one slide because I want you to see. Okay, so if we think about the individual markers, the awareness comes from, and I don't have them in front of me and I don't have them memorized, but the awareness comes from 7-1, 7-5, 7-6, 7-7, and 7-8. Those are the ones that really create that level of awareness, that opening up, that, being silent, that short, concise, one at a time questions, digging into what are they currently thinking, feeling, believing, or doing. So we've got that awareness there. And those are the markers that bring out awareness. Now, when it comes to insight, we're looking at 2, 3, and 5. And as I said before, number 7.4, which you don't see listed here, is kind of separate because that's the one that leads us to the action. That's where we look at the possibility, right? So we've got awareness, we've got insight, and then 7.4, which is where we talk about what's the possibility, what's the dream, where is it that you want to be, so that we can lead into, okay, now you know where you want to go. Just like when you guys use your GPS. Has anybody ever used, whatever, Apple Maps, Google Maps, whatever, you use your GPS, you have to know where you're going before it's going to help you step out the way to get there. So that's what all number 7 is building that awareness to get to what is the possibility, what is the dream scenario that you want to get to. And then once that's been articulated, now we can start to find a way forward And that's where we bring in competency number 8 to bring it forward. So the really fun thing that I found quite interesting was that number 7 had there's a whole list of what do they call it? Definitions, like a glossary of terms in the ICF core competencies, not the code of ethics, but the competencies, and they have a whole list of definitions, and 7 gets to use a whole bunch of them. So it uses insights, which is new understandings or realizations that emerge during the coaching process leading to personal growth. So insights, like we're talking about. Energy shifts, oh my gosh, we I don't even know if we mentioned energy shifts yet today. So maybe we did. I will tell you that if you are able as a coach to focus on the energy shifts and bring that insight to the client, those are some of the most powerful transformations. Those are like real insights happen when you say, oh, you know what? When you were just talking about that, I noticed that your voice got a little lighter and brighter. I think I might have actually seen a little smile on your face. What's behind that smile? And so when we're able to observe and then articulate that energy shift, that is a huge part of making it real, because that's a feeling that happens in their body. It's not a thought, it's a feeling. And when we're talking about things, so whether it is we smile or we get a chill or we get a shudder, whatever the thing is, that's a physical embodiment of what is going on, and that can lead us to that insight and makes it really, really tangible. Much like a metaphor, much like a story, it really brings it into that tangible aspect. So like Claudia was saying, she referred to golf with her client, and so that helped. Was it Claudia that said that? No, I can't remember.
Valeska.
Oh, anyway.
Valeska,
right. Okay, Valeska. I knew it was an ICF chairperson. So but yeah, using the golf analogy really physically changes the way that a person is able to work with it. Metaphor, we talked about. There's observations, there's reframing perspective. We talked a little bit about that. And again, everything is without attachment. So there's some really neat definitions that are involved with competency number 7. And I just wanted to point those out. So if you guys look through the full competencies of everything, and I think they just updated 2025. So there's a couple of new things. Nothing changed with 7, but there were some changes to some of the other competencies. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Sometimes we have, sometimes I had a client once, and they were talking about, the executive team is like, we're really, really good individually. Like the CFO is awesome, the COO is awesome, the HRO is awesome. Like everybody is like so good, but we don't gel as a team. We're just not there, right? And we can't figure out what the heck is going on. And so, I had said, well, it's almost like you guys are an orchestra, virtuosos. You're all amazing. And yet who's the conductor? Like who is it? It could be the CEO, but it might not be. Like the CEO, though they are the ultimate decision maker, might not be the one that leads a conversation, might not be the one that helps the team gel properly, keeps everyone on task. It might be the CHRO, it might be it might be the CFO, it might be the the operations officer. We don't know. But it, like, everybody was an expert, but nobody was conducting the way the meetings were being handled and the way they were all vibing. And when they realized, they're like, oh my God, I think I need to be the conductor. Like, I need to take a hold of this. It's my job to do this thing. I need to conduct and make sure that all of my people are on the same page, in the same key, at the same tempo. And so they changed the way they went into their meetings. It wasn't like status update, blah, 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 where are you, where are you? It became much more about, are we on the same tempo? How are we helping each other out? How are we moving forward together? How do we make sure that the other person has their thing going the way that they want it to go, and that we as an organization want it to go? Let's do another exercise, and I think we're running out of time, so we'll do some Q&A and fun stuff in a little bit. But let's do this one on imposter syndrome. Who doesn't love that, right? So your client is a newly promoted CFO, and they lower their voice, And they say, I sit in these board meetings and sometimes I'm just waiting for someone to realize I am not as sharp as the last guy. It's like I'm performing, but one wrong move and I'm sure to be exposed. So imposter syndrome, totally real thing. I don't know about you guys. I experience it occasionally, if not often. You know, we've all been there. So we'll do the same thing where we hold on to our answers and we'll hit play all at once. So I'll give you guys a minute to think, how would you respond? And if you need me to put the question back up, I can do that. I kind of took it down prematurely. Let me put it back up. There you go. All right, how you guys doing? You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Jess with the tell me more. All right, who wants to share their thoughts behind the reasoning here? This one's always a fun one to play with, right? Ooh, Alexandra, tell me more about you comparing yourself to someone else. Oh, the killer, the final dagger, comparing ourselves to someone else. Ugh. Everybody wants to live the Instagram life. Oh, that's tough. Oh, what made them choose you as CFO? Yeah, did you fake your way into this position? Like, who did you fool to get there? No one. You're accomplished, right? Who wants to share their thoughts? Otherwise, I'm just going to move on. Thank you for sharing this situation. Tell me more about the feeling. Very nice, Erica. All right. We don't have much time. So I want to share one thing here, but these are great answers. I love it. We're coming to the close here. We've only got about 12 minutes, and I'm sure Claudia has some little housekeeping and wrap up at the end with surveys and stuff. Claudia, I would ask you, go ahead and pop the survey thing in there now so people don't hurry up and jump off. They can answer it while I'm babbling in a minute here. So yeah, just copy that thing.
Yes.
Oops, too far. Back. There we go.
So we'd love for you to answer the survey and give us feedback on Jimmy's presentation. I can speak for myself. This was a great presentation, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Your energy and everything. So please go ahead and you can scan the QR code. It'll take you to a form.
And Claudia, can you put the link in the chat? I can't do that because it's a picture.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, not everybody's got the scanny thing. And while you're doing that, I'm going to bring up my screen again. So it occurred to me as I was putting together the presentation, how many people know what appreciative inquiry is? Right. Yeah. So, okay. So we know about appreciative inquiry. Oh, and I hear, here comes the drill or the saw. They're going to start making noise. Hopefully you won't hear it. Appreciative inquiry is where we discover, dream, design, and then resolve to or conjure up a destiny. And again, it's that interplay between core competency 7 and 8. And so 7 encompasses the discovery and the dream. So what brings this life? What do we dream, these things to be? So discovery is awareness and dream is insight. And then when we start talking about the possibility of what can be, and we start to design and fully form out the destiny that we want, now we're in competency number 8. So appreciative inquiry is a huge tool for us as coaches. I mean, we use it in leadership development all the time and in team coaching all the time. But you can also use it, here, just to think about it. You're like, okay, well, if I want to, as I'm incorporating, if you're struggling with like, I don't do a really good job with my competency number 7, then, how am I creating discovery and the dream aspect? And so that's something to contemplate there. Let me see. We're going to move forward through the slides. All right. Well, we've got a lot more other things, but we don't have time. Okay. Here I do want to share with these because I'm going to do this quickly. And I'll send you out a PDF, a document afterwards. Once I figure out I couldn't figure out how to get it in chat. It wouldn't work for me. So I'm going to give it to Claudia. She'll send it out to you guys. But sometimes because if we're working in the executive coaching world, they do want bottom line. They do want results. They do want solutions. They're like, I don't have time for my feelings. We're not, what are we doing here? Empathy is for babies, or mothers, I should say, not the babies. The babies need the empathy. But how do we accomplish, how do we talk about what language do we use when we feel like our client might not be into the touchy-feely, the holistic or the somatic stuff? So if we want to explore emotion, we might say in a typical life coaching situation or executive coaching, we're not all hard-nosed, crusty, people. Some of us are soft and still know how to lead a team or an organization. But, typically we might say, well, how do you feel about that? And that might not work really well for an executive who's a little crusty or action-oriented. But if you use the phrase, what's the impact of that on you personally? Now you're using word like impact, and personally is still okay to use, but we're saying, what's the impact on you? Or what's the impact of that on you? And so it's a different way of sort of hardening and bottom lining the question. So that way it's not like, oh, you're talking about my feelings. I told you I don't do that. We don't do emotions. Like, I'm flat. But when you say, what's the impact on you? Because everybody has feelings. We just don't like to call them that. What's the impact on you? You're like, okay. So it diffuses that sense of, how am I, why are we talking about my feelings? If we're talking about exploring values, instead of saying, what does your heart tell you? You could say, what matters most to you in this situation? And again, it hardens a softer question so that they can feel like, oh, well, this matters. The bottom line, the revenue, the retention, whatever the thing is. Stress. Would you ask an executive, a CEO or a COO, what are you afraid of? You might, but you might not. And if you don't want to say, what are you afraid of? Because that might not be the best question to ask because you know your client so well. You might say, what's the risk you're most aware of right now? Right? So you're talking about risk. It doesn't sound like fear. You're like, oh, it's a risk. And in business, I take risks. It's really loud outside my window right now. I hope you guys can't hear it. Exploring confidence. And I know I'm running low on time. How does that make you feel about yourself? Again, tough question to ask maybe, but how does that affect your confidence in this situation? And again, you're going to get all these, if you want to screenshot them, that's fine, but I'm going to send this to you. This one's beautiful. How do you think they're feeling? Well, I don't care about their feelings. That doesn't matter to me. Like, they're just here to get paid. I sign the check, they do the work, bottom line. But if you asked, how do you read their reaction or tone? little bit different. It's not about feeling so much, even though we know it is. Again, like we said earlier, awareness, it's not a fix, it's not a solution, it's a mirror. And 7 goes from awareness to insight, finishing up with number 8, which is Eric later at noon, the action. And we did it.
Thank you, Jimmy.
We made it through. Let me stop sharing so I can
5
see all your
minutes
beautiful
before the
faces
hour.
again. There
Great
we are.
presentation.
Thank you. Woo!
Wonderful.
Awesome. Well, Claudia, finish up. Do your whatever you got to do at the end here. Sorry it took so much time.
Thank you so much for being here, everyone. We hope to see you at noon. Eric Goris is ready to take the floor. So if you haven't registered, go ahead and register right now. You'll be receiving your certificates by the end of the day or early tomorrow. So we hope to see you during the rest of the week. We have 15 sessions, so we hope to see you at noon and this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie. It was amazing.